With the ongoing turmoil facing the Middle East due to the recent attacks by Hamas on Israel, Lex Fridman had a chance to interview Jared Kushner, husband of Ivanka Trump and former senior presidential advisor under the Trump administration. Jared has conducted negotiations with some of the most powerful leaders in the world and has delivered results on trade, criminal justice reform, and historic progress towards peace in the Middle East. Most notably, with the Abraham peace deal that was passed between Israel and 5 Arabic nations in 2020. Given his first-hand connection to the conflict, Jared shared an alternative viewpoint on the issue that he saw in his time in office. Instead of blaming Israel or Palestine, Jared takes the position that this conflict was ultimately exacerbated by the Iranian government's malicious regime and President Biden's weak administration. He also shows a deep compassion for all human beings and truly envisions a future where everyone can live in peace. Originally, the two sat down and recorded a podcast 2 days before the attack, but decided to sit down to do another recording after the October 7th tragedy. This video highlights part 1, the conversation after the attack. Thank you for watching this video, and we encourage all people, regardless of your stance, to sympathize with the civilians of Israel and Palestine, as this event will most certainly lead to the loss of thousands of innocent lives. To begin the podcast, Jared Kushner expressed heartbreak over the unfolding events, emphasizing the brutal acts committed by militants and the distressing images of civilians being attacked and taken captive. Lex Fridman asked Jared Kushner about the history of Hamas and its relevance to the ongoing situation. Kushner emphasized that Hamas originated from the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt, a group that has caused regional issues. He highlighted that Israel withdrew from Gaza in 2005, giving governance to Palestinians. But Hamas's leadership has led to a decline in the Palestinian people's quality of life by claiming that Hamas has been holding the 2 million civilians in Gaza as hostages under their totalitarian regime. He goes on to show his sympathy for the Palestinians by saying, "I've watched cries throughout my time in government from people saying they want to see the Palestinian people live a better life. I agree with those people." Kushner urged focusing anger and attention on Hamas, asserting that they hold the Palestinians back from a better life. The former White House advisor discussed Iran's role in supporting Hamas and other anti-Israeli militant groups, as Hamas has openly acknowledged Iran's support. He claims that the reason for the US's strict policies on the Gaza borders and the control of their imports is because every time the US would send equipment to help the Palestinians build pipes and buildings, Hamas would use it to build bombs and tunnels. This challenge made it difficult for the US to send humanitarian aid to the people of Gaza, since the leadership would use the equipment to attack Israel. He emphasized the ruthless Iranian leadership support for the destruction of Israel. He makes a clear distinction between the Iranian regime and the citizens, saying that many Iranian people protest their government's stance on the Israel-Palestine conflict. Jared follows that up with a recent example of Iranian citizens who showed their disapproval of the government's support of Hamas following the attack at a soccer game held in Iran. He says, "The Iranian and Persian people, generally, are peace-loving people who don't want to see their focus on destruction and annihilation." Kushner points out that Iran's regime funds various terror groups, including Hezbollah, Houthis, and Hamas. He stated that Iran prefers indirect involvement, usually through proxy militant groups, to further its interests and prevent Israeli-Saudi peace agreements and promote the destruction of Israel. Lex continues on to ask Jared how much of the conflict is centered around the Al-Aqsa Mosque. Jared Kushner addresses the misconception that the recent attacks are primarily about the mosque, clarifying that extremist groups like Shia jihadists falsely use the mosque as a tool to justify their aggression towards Israel. Kushner tells a story of his efforts to deeply understand the Israeli-Palestinian conflict by conducting surveys with Arabic people in the region. He commissioned focus groups in different Muslim cities to survey them. He found that a popular belief among Muslims was that Israel restricted Palestinians' access to the Al-Aqsa Mosque. He dismisses this viewpoint, explaining that Israel's policy is to allow peaceful prayer at the mosque and highlights efforts to make Jerusalem a place where all religions can coexist peacefully. He cites the 1967 Protection of Holy Places law passed by Israel to restore the mosque and allow all Muslims access to peaceful prayer. The former senior White House advisor claims that ISIS and Iran spread false propaganda about the mosque to recruit more members. Lex Fridman inquires about how to counter the propaganda that often revolves around the Al-Aqsa Mosque. Kushner delves into the historical misuse of the Al-Aqsa Mosque in propaganda. He mentions Hajj Amin al-Husseini, a significant figure in the 1920s that's close with Hitler and Mussolini, who was known for spreading anti-Semitism to help get claims to the Middle East after the Jewish people were annihilated. Al-Husseini manipulated the situation before the era of smartphones and social media, claiming that the mosque was under attack from Jewish Zionists, which helped him raise funds from Pakistan and Indonesia and recruit young, vulnerable Muslim men for violent causes. The former White House official condemns government officials using religious tensions to effect acts of violence in the name of religion, which are disrespectful to the values of Islam. Kushner then highlights the positive impact of the Abraham Accords, a series of normalization agreements between Israel and several Arab nations signed in 2020. The increased business opportunities and the ability for people to travel more freely facilitated by the Accords are seen as a way to counteract misinformation and help shape a more accurate narrative. In the podcast, Lex Fridman inquires about the Abraham Accords and how understanding its accomplishment might shed light on the recent tragic events. Jared Kushner emphasizes the complexities of foreign policy where the conclusion of one problem often marks the beginning of a new one. Kushner explains that to achieve peace, one needs to focus on strength and ensuring that people are better off in the future. He said, "The vast majority of the people in the Middle East, whether they're Jewish, Muslim, Christian, or whatever religion, they just want to live better lives." He discusses his past economic plan titled Peace to Prosperity, aimed at improving the lives of both Palestinians and Israelis. He emphasizes the need for a paradigm shift, detailing the economic aspect of the plan and how much effort went into making it successful. He also highlights how Hamas prioritizes violence and conflict rather than the welfare of the people, making it challenging to work towards peace and improvement in the region. He tells the story of a gathering that he organized of top US and Arabic businessmen and developers in a conference to rebuild Gaza. There was a general consensus among the businessmen that the plan was doable for $7 to $8 billion, and everything was planned out. He then undermines the Palestinian leadership group Hamas when he says that the only thing that people said was holding back the deal wasn't Israel. What was holding it back was governance, and people wouldn't have confidence investing there with the rule that Hamas was perpetuating. He highlights the need for Gaza's demilitarization to mitigate Israel's concerns, acknowledging Hamas as a barrier to peace due to their prioritization of military capabilities over improving the lives of Palestinians. When asked about the differences between Trump's campaigns versus Biden's, Mr. Kushner describes the shift in focus between the two administrations regarding the Middle East. He begins by applauding the achievements during the Trump era, notably the Abraham Accords. He also highlights the crippling sanctions imposed on Iran during that time, drastically reducing its oil sales from 2.6 million barrels per day to 100,000 barrels per day. Their foreign currencies were basically depleted and they were broke, he said. He contrasts this with Biden's administration, which started making deals to buy oil from Iran after reducing US's oil production as a result of his climate policies and after weakening relations with Saudi Arabia and Russia, which caused oil prices to rise. He also criticized Biden's administration for blindly giving the Palestinians money without making them do some governance reforms or economic investments to benefit the people. After seeing failure in his foreign policy, Biden worked to start the Saudi Arabia and Israel peace agreement with Kushner's praises. However, he criticizes the execution of the agreement, claiming that it was done in public, unlike the Abraham records of Trump's campaign. The lack of secrecy in the deal allowed for the troublemakers in the region Iran to get involved. He claims that the recent attack on Israel was seen as a direct response to sabotage the deal, as Iran feared the alliance of the economic powerhouses of UAE, Saudi Arabia, and Israel. Essentially, they took a very good and stable deal and underestimated Iran's ability to seize the operation. He also blames the Israel terror attack on Biden's recent deal to give Iran $6 billion in exchange for hostages, which, ironically, led to more hostages and dead bodies. Jared Kushner says, "It's a heartbreaking situation, again, totally avoidable, and one that I think has been very badly mismanaged." He continues to denounce Biden, saying with absolute certainty that, regardless of what you think of him, if President Trump was in office, this never would have happened. Kushner suggests showing increased US military strength in the face of escalating tensions to prevent a wider conflict. He supports President Biden's military moves and emphasizes the need to back Israel unequivocally. Kushner advocates sending a clear message to Iran, holding them accountable for any proxy actions. Lex asks what a desirable end to the war might look like. Jared Kushner emphasizes the need for Israel to achieve a secure environment free from threats and for the people in Gaza to have opportunities for a better life. He calls for the international community to unite behind Israel, hold Hamas and its Iranian backers accountable, and cease funding until a long-term, sustainable solution is in place that enhances the lives of the Palestinian people. When Lex asked about Jared's thoughts on Israel's current prime minister, Jared commended Netanyahu's historical significance and understanding of Israel's security apparatus, emphasizing his global relations and accomplishments in strengthening Israel economically and militarily. Lex then asks about Netanyahu's recent political turmoil that has been facing him in Israel. Kushner views it as a reflection of a vibrant democracy, where people fight for their beliefs openly. He highlights the stark contrast with the lack of democracy and freedoms in the Palestinian territories. However, the former White House official also recognizes that historical vulnerability emerges during times of political division, emphasizing the importance of unity, especially in times of crisis. He extends this perspective to the United States, suggesting that finding common ground and addressing shared concerns amidst division at home is crucial for securing the nation. The discussion switches to Lex pointing out a rising increase in worldwide online support for the people of Palestine. He acknowledges that many individuals expressing support for the Palestinian people likely genuinely want to see them live a better life, a sentiment that he agrees with. However, he believes that a significant portion of these supporters might lack a thorough understanding of the facts on the ground, which might be clouding their judgment. Kushner suggests that those advocating for the Palestinian people could be more effective if they directed their attention and criticism towards Hamas. He encourages supporters to recognize the role Hamas plays and focus on highlighting the failings of Hamas's leadership, while also proposing a vision for a more constructive leadership in Gaza. He emphasizes the need to address the real fear that any country such as Israel would have if there was a group of terrorists on their doorstep calling for their destruction. He wishes that online supporters of Palestine could follow the conference he did in Bahrain, where wealthy Arabic and American businessmen showed a desire to rebuild Gaza, but ultimately held back due to Hamas's terror initiative. The discussion progresses to Donald Trump running for re-election in 2024. Kushner states, "When Donald Trump was president, we had a peaceful world," and praises Trump's efforts in diplomacy and strengthening relations with Russia, China, and the Middle East. Kushner expresses a desire for Trump's re-election, believing that his strong and decisive approach is essential for restoring peace and stability in the world. Looking into the future of the Middle East, the former White House advisor sees a shift toward economic development and innovation. He cites the emergence of young leaders in countries like Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Qatar, who are keen on transforming the region into an economic powerhouse. He compares Israel to Silicon Valley, calling it the second tech hub of the world, and envisions the same for various other countries in the region. However, Kushner acknowledges that long-standing conflict and division in the Middle East as a major obstacle to progress. He sees the potential for the region's prosperity if it can overcome this hurdle and effectively manage challenges posed by wicked regimes like Iran's. Finally, the discussion ends with Fridman asking Jared about his thoughts on human nature and how to defeat hate in this world. He acknowledges the power of hate and its ease of manifestation, particularly toward people that we don't know. Kushner believes in the fundamental goodness of people, asserting that while there are certainly some individuals with evil intentions, the majority strive for a better life. Furthermore, Jared highlights the importance of constructive dialogue and connection in overcoming societal divisions. He encourages active listening, respectful debate, and engaging with opposing perspectives to broaden our understanding. He ends the discussion by giving his deepest condolences to the state of Israel and Palestine, and prays for the well-being of every victim of the war. Thank you for watching this video. Our thoughts and prayers go to all the people in the region of Israel and Gaza. And we would like to foster meaningful discussions about the conflict. Please use the comment section to share your stories, and more importantly, to listen to the stories of those on the other side. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and share it with someone you know who might like it.